Welcome to this episode of Unstoppable Journeys. My name is Ryan Gubick, founder and personal CFO with MRG Wealth, and I'd like to introduce you to a special guest today, Tara McLaughlin, CEO and co-founder of Paper Crane.
Yes, hi.
Welcome, Tara.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So we were talking a couple months ago at a networking event, and you were talking about the big problem a lot of people have around identity and branding and kind of breaking through that mold. Can you share with us and the audience a bit today about the problem, that big problem that you and your team help solve?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll preface that by saying Paper Crane is a marketing and brand strategy agency. So what we do is we level up organizations. So we take an organization and what it is that they've been doing in the market, and we do a market and branding assessment and try to link that with their audience. So one of the problems that we see a lot in the market is that brands are very unknowledgeable, I guess. Is that a word? Can I say that word? They don't really understand their own brand.
We all don't know what we don't know.
Yeah, right. Lots of folks don't understand their own brand, regardless of what branding actually is. So one of the problems that we like to solve with our clients and out in the world is to not only educate organizations about what branding actually is, but how they can use that data to authentically connect with their audiences. Audiences today are really concerned about authentically connecting with their brands. You don't get loyalty just by having a good product anymore. You get loyalty by understanding their needs and what it is that are important to them, and then playing to those strengths. So you'll see a lot of really big brands today, and it might be controversial, but lots of brands will take a political stance based on something that their audience finds important. Lots of brands will do really heavy community investment into certain areas that is really important for their audience. But it just demonstrates a deep understanding of where their audience is and how they're generating loyalty.
Very interesting. You mentioned audience a few times in that. How important is it to do what the audience wants versus what the owners or co-founders or leadership team wants?
Oh, it's essential. There's something that I say to all of our clients is that especially when we're doing a rebranding project or a persona development sort of exercise, is I say, if you're not the target audience, you don't have to actually like the branding. It doesn't have to be your taste. You should be proud of it as an owner, right? You should be like, yes, this is my brand, and this is what we do, and this is how our visual identity looks, this is how our voice is, this is our brand promise. You should be proud of that, but it doesn't have to be your taste. So if your target audience was 6-year-old girls, I'm going to design something that looks great for 6-year-old girls, not for 30-year-old men.
Maybe a little older, but yeah, we'll go with that. Not 6.
Not 6. But so it doesn't have to be your taste. And so a lot of founders, and rightfully so, founders are very emotionally attached to what they've created, as they should be. They've put a little bit of themselves, a little of their heart and soul into the world. But inevitably, their organizations reach sort of a plateau at some point. And they've reached a point where they want to grow more, they want to grow their audience, they want to capture more of the market, they want to go into a different area. And in order to do that, they have to let go a little bit of the way that they thought their brand needed to be communicated.
And that seems like a big problem just in itself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it is. And it's because founders are emotionally tied to the product and to the brand that they've created.
It's their baby.
It's their baby. And a lot of times, I would say more than 70% of the time, a founder has created the website on their own. They've done the logo on their own. They've done the visioning on their own. They've done the persona development on their own. They've done all of their, collateral potentially on their own. And they've decided that this is what they like and this is what's working. But when you want to play with the big guys, for instance, or you want to level up, you need to kind of let go a little bit of what it is that you like in order to be able to connect with that audience. So if you want to go into a different audience segment, for instance, say you've been selling to this audience segment and revenues have plateaued, and you're like, okay, I want to open up the market in this new segment. You need to first understand that audience and then understand how they want to be communicated to, what they like, what it is that's going to resonate with them, and then be flexible enough to maybe switch the way that your brand looks and feels in order to connect with those people. Because people connect with stories. They connect with what it is that matters to them. And
the emotional side of things, not just the transactional. Right?
Absolutely. We're emotional beings first. Yeah. Our emotions are lightning fast, and there's psychological data to back it up. But every single human being reacts emotionally first and then logically to every situation all the time. When you're mature, you can control the emotions, process them, and then have a logical response. But you see this in children. Children are emotional immediately, and their emotions live up here all the time. All human beings are exactly the same. We will react emotionally first and then respond and make a decision based on logic. So if I'm a brand and I want to connect with my audience, I'm going to use emotion to do that first. And then if they connect with the emotion, your audience is going to make a logical decision to purchase.
And that makes so much sense. It seems like one of those things that sounds easier to say than to actually do, though. There's so much complication in solving that problem. Before we get into the solution that you've developed, can you share us a bit about your story? Like, why did you want to go down this path to solve this problem? Why did you want to create Paper Crane and help people with this?
I think that, I've had a long journey in art. So, like, from the time that I was about 15, I've been like a published artist. My grandmother was an artist, got me into painting really early. Obviously I went to school, and when it came time to go to university, I was going to be a lawyer. I really like to argue.
So art to lawyer, that's a good jump.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I really like to find ways to solve problems. And at the time, law seemed like a really interesting way to do that. Yeah. And I actually got into law school. And at the request of the, guidance counselor in my school when I was deciding on universities, they said there's this new art program in Calgary, and there's a new design program in Calgary, and you should apply. And I was like, sure, I guess I'll do that. I'll apply to art school, and I'll apply to law school, right? Because
keep your options open.
Right, I'm gonna be a lawyer. I told my parents, God love my parents, because I got into law school, but I got into art school first, the day before. I got into the school that I was going to go to for law, but I'd said, whoever gets back to me first, that's where I'll go. And I got into art school first, so I went to art school. And my parents were not disappointed in me in any way. They were like, great, go do that. And I am glad I'm not a lawyer. I have friends that are lawyers. I do not want to be a lawyer. But what I learned is that I got to satisfy my need to be able to solve problems and be able to argue a case. So you're doing that a lot in graphic design. And so I ended up coming from this artistic background and then realizing that I could use artistic principles to solve communication problems.
Smart insight to have that. I think we were talking a couple months ago, you even referenced yourself as a commercial artist.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly it. And I am not a fine artist. Fine art is me expressing my feelings through artistic mediums. And then you decide to connect with that based on your personal experience. Commercial art is using artistic principles to communicate a want, to get people to think, feel, or do something. So the best example that I can come up with is Michelangelo was a commercial artist. He was commissioned by the church to do the Sistine Chapel. He used his artistic talents to communicate the church's message.
That's a really good example.
So we think it's fine art because it's beautiful, obviously, and he used fine art principles, and that was the tools he had at the time. Yeah. And now we have digital tools that we use. So commercial art is very different than fine art, and I'm a commercial artist. And so I came up through that, and then I met my business partner in December of 2019, and I met him in October of 2019, and in December of 2019, we incorporated Paper Crane. Because he was a developer and I was a designer, and we just had really complementary skills. And then we realized that we kept giving work back and forth to one another, but honestly, we just kept passing the same check back and forth. And we weren't making any money. So we're like, this is dumb. We should obviously partner up. And he's got the technical background and I've got the artistic background. And so now we can take those, marry them together, and we've added a strategic offering now at Paper Crane. So we've got the backing, the research, and all of those things in the back end to support the artistic and content decisions that we make, and then the technology to develop it. So we're really taking businesses and that have had a reasonable amount of success that want to open up into bigger and better markets and giving them the tools to be able to help do that. Obviously, it's not business strategy or sales strategy, but marketing is a really important part of how you get a business out and your message out there.
If no one knows you exist, how do you grow?
Exactly.
So, when you're talking about the problem, and there's multiple levels of the problem that, you share with us, how do you and your team at Paper Crane help solve that? Like, evoke the emotion and kind of have a bit of the disconnect between the owners and the audience and all those components. How does that work?
It's like part science, part art, part armchair psychology. So like I did actually end up minoring in psychology and sociology in university, which has helped greatly. There is a lot of psychology and sociology that goes into the art of marketing, because you have to make a lot of assumptions about how people behave. But our process it's usually like a pretty deep discovery process. And then what we like to do is tie it to a business reason. It's great to want to do marketing. It's not great to want to do marketing just because. This is an investment into the business. You have to look at it as an investment into the business, and there has to be a business reason that you want to go after it. So how much more of the market do you want to capture? How big is the market size? We've had clients come to us and say, we want to quadruple our revenue in the next 5 years, but the market isn't even that big. Like there isn't even that revenue available. So we usually go through like a market sizing kind of
analysis.
Analysis is a good word for that.
Driven.
And then the next one is really drilling down into the personas. Who are you talking to and why? Why should they care? And why would they choose you over a multitude of other competitors? Then there's a competitive analysis for that. And then that all trickles down into, that will inform how we do the visual identity. So visual identity is like logos, marks, anything that people see, right, on the outside.
Unstoppable journeys.
There you go. This is part of your visual identity. So is this space. So is how you dress. So this is a little plant. Like you've curated a visual space that you want, and it's communicating a specific message, right? Then the words you use, how you talk, how is it colloquial? Do you curse or not? Are you formal? That is all goes into how your brand is presented. And then like your promise. At the end of the day, when I work with MRG Wealth, what promise are you promising me? And I'm hoping it has something to do with my journey.
Absolutely.
Being unstoppable.
An unstoppable journey.
I hope I'm going to have an unstoppable journey. And so like you're making a promise to people, right? And I can resonate with that. I can put myself in that situation. I can be like, what does my unstoppable journey look like? And so we do a lot of persona development in that way and drilling into those people. And then that informs the content and the visuals, which informs your tech stack on the back end. Like, do you need e-commerce? Do you need a marketing site? Do you need like a POS system that links in? Do you need an app built? Do you need like these other things from a technology perspective that your audience is going to resonate with? It's going to help them buy more of your things. Because that's what we really want, right?
And love how you said, tech stack last. Because so many times I have conversations with people or clients or individuals that are thinking marketing, and sometimes people think tech stack first.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what's the new software out there? AI is a great word used out there with software. Be like, maybe AI can fix this problem.
Yeah.
But I love how you said, the 80% before that was all kind of emotion, psychology, persona development, all of that components before the tech stack.
Yeah.
I see that all the time, even on the personal finance side too. It's sometimes individuals want to jump right into the investment side, right? The tools. And it's like, well, the investments are great and they're important. You need them to generate wealth. But it's like building a house and asking, what screws should I use?
Yeah,
And
it
you're
doesn't
like,
make any sense.
Well, are we building a 1,000 square foot bungalow, a 10,000 square foot 5-story home? Or
Yeah.
is it on the ocean? Where, like, let's do the blueprint first of what you want and where you want to go. And then the screws and nails and 2x4s will all come out.
Yeah, exactly. That's like, it's like if you walked up to a stranger and was like, hey, I bought you these shoes. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't know who you are. I don't know your size. I don't know if you're going to like them. Maybe you don't need a pair of shoes. Maybe you need a hat.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, right? So it's in marketing, that's called tactics. Like it's usually you're putting the tactics before the plan.
Yeah.
Or you're letting the tactics drive the plan. So in marketing terms, we get a lot of people come in to us and they say, I need a newsletter. Why? Who are you targeting? Are they going to read it? Do they care? Or are they just going to feel bombarded because you're spamming them with a whole bunch of email that they don't need?
Yeah, do you want to buy a 6-year-old girl shoes?
Yeah, right? Like, do you actually need that? Yeah. So that's just like putting the tactics before the planning. And that's, it's common because marketing seems easy. The big guys that do it really well do it with what looks like relative ease.
Yeah, Apple's website doesn't look too complicated, right? The little Apple logo.
Yeah, exactly. I want to look like Apple. Great. They've dumped billions into their marketing. And it's because it comes from a place of, you should use this hand so you can see me. You can cut that. I'll pause. It's because it comes from a place of knowledge of who their audience is. It comes from a place of like vision and purpose. And that comes all the way down through to how the website looks, right? It's not like it's very, very easy to look at like McDonald's or Apple or Microsoft or Bentley and think, oh, all I need to do is a TV commercial and then people will love me. Absolutely wrong. Like, you do not look at the tactics first. There's a saying that I love to be able to tell people is that when you do things right, people aren't sure you've done anything at all. It feels really natural. It just feels like, yep, this is what we should be doing. So it's really easy to be like, I want to be on TikTok or I'm going to be an Instagram influencer and not understand how much work actually goes into something like that.
That makes a lot of sense. And on part of your solution with the persona identification, how difficult is it to identify persona and the audience? I ask that because sometimes when you think about identifying what an audience wants to see or hear, there's numerous books and blogs and I think, courses out there talking about like basic marketing 101, understand who your audience is. But how difficult is it actually to understand, like from different perspectives, especially when leadership team or the individuals that are doing the assessment are involved? Like, is it through market research that, really helps? Is there a specific percentage of the population or the benchmark group that you should be testing to see if that's actually what they think about? Or, is it just your close family and friends? That's how they think.
That's what we call mother-in-law research. The close friends and family. Close friends and family will always be supportive. You will know if your close friends and family actually support you if they buy your product. You will know if your product is good if your close friends and family are buying it. So usually what I say to folks is like, if you're a startup and you have a great idea and you're like, I have this great idea, and I think it's the best idea in the whole world, do mother-in-law research. Ask your friends and family if it's a good idea. And then be receptive to what it is that they say. They're probably going to say something positive, to be honest. Then put the product out there and see if they buy it. If your close friends and family buy it and then champion you, you might have something. Then you can go out and start testing with different groups of people. So the way that the question that you've asked is like, how hard is it? It honestly depends on how big of the market you want to capture and how many resources you want to put into that kind of research. If you're very brand new and you're just testing a new product or service, it's actually really hard. We can do market research, we can identify your audience, we can go interview them in a certain percentage, we can do double-blind studies or A/B testing is what we sometimes do online and gather data that way. That can take 12 to 18 months. And it's probably, especially if your product is really, really new, you're going to have a lot of variance. You're going to make an assumption about your audience, and it's rare that you're dead on with a new product or service. You're probably going to get a lot of variance, and you're going to be like, oh, I thought my audience was this, but it's actually this. These are the guys that are buying, not these guys. Like, I thought it was 6-year-old girls, but it's 12-year-old girls. Weird. Like it's, there's a lot of variance in that. If you're a more mature business, and you've been around like 5 years to 10 years, for instance, you're going to have a pretty solid idea of who your customers are. So in that case, we typically run a series of workshops with the stakeholders in the business, get all of their different opinions, and then compare to see where there's holes.
And what are you comparing it to? Because that's what I was trying to get at.
Mm-hmm.
The leadership or the ownership team's opinions of who their market is versus the data in the back end that's saying this is actually who's buying. Like you just used the example of a 6-year-old girl and a 12-year-old girl.
Yeah. So what we usually do with that is that we'll compare internally first. So we'll interview you, and we'll interview your CFO, and we'll interview like your sales manager, and we'll interview your marketing team, and we'll interview those separate people and get an idea of who they all think it is. And very often the CEO is totally out to lunch because they're not in the day-to-day. They don't talk to everybody every day. Usually the sales team is the most accurate.
Boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground, right? Anybody that's talking to clients is going to be more accurate. CEO is usually out to lunch. So we'll compare internally, and then we go out and do what's called primary and secondary research. So primary research is going out and looking at the actual market itself, like who's in your space, your competitors. We ask for a list of current clients, potential clients, and people that you've said no to, that have said no to your product, and we interview them. Depending on the size that you are, it can be 10 people, it can be 30 people. So we go out and we interview them all, and we look for patterns. And then we look for the patterns that they have said versus the patterns that you have said. And then there's reports. You can usually pull marketing reports, trend reports for your industry.
Sorry, how often do those patterns differ between, the data from the audience versus the ownership? Are they close usually? Or
usually they're pretty close. I'd say there's usually about like 40% that's a surprise. And it's usually in the tactics. So like we have a client, for instance, that we went out and we interviewed all their clients, and we had an assumption about how we wanted to market to them, right? We were like, well, it's a professional business. It's B2B. LinkedIn is going to be one of the places that we want to reach that market. Every single client we interviewed not only said they don't use LinkedIn, that they absolutely abhor it, and they will never be on social media no matter what. They have 6 minutes in the day to be able to do anything that's not related to actually doing their job, and that's they read an email they get from a specific report. That's it. So we were completely wrong. And the organization that we've been working with was on LinkedIn. And like, why aren't we getting any results? I'm like, well, 'cause 0 of your clients are there, right? And so I'd say about 40% of any research that we do is a surprise. Like, we didn't know that. That's interesting.
That's still a large amount, like super valuable to have that data to course correct.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what we do then is we put all those assumptions together. There's interviews, then there's usually data reports, there's market sizing. Secondary research is going into markets that are similar to yours, but not necessarily the same. So they could be competitors, they could not be competitors. We really like talking to the clients that said no to you. Why did you say no? Why wouldn't you go with this person? It's all anonymous, by the way, too.
Feedback's the greatest gift in life, right? I think there's actually even Disney movies, or there's a kids movie that talks about, feedback being the greatest gift, and some business books.
Oh, yeah. Like, feedback is invaluable. And I think that a lot of companies, they forget to do that. They navel gaze. They're like, I'm going to say what I want to say, and I'm going to say it how I want to say it. Great. How's that work for you? Right? Like, and usually if you're doing that, it's kind of a crapshoot about whether or not it's resonating with people. And if it is resonating with people, great. Like, good. Like, you've done it. Like, you struck gold somehow without any feedback. You're some sort of Nostradamus. That's awesome. But more often than not, when organizations decide they want to go into a new market, they're pretty clueless about what it is that their audiences want. And sometimes we'll come back and we'll say, we've done the research, we've spoken to your clients, you don't have a marketing problem. You have a product problem. You have a shipping problem. You have a sales problem. You have a vision problem. You have a capacity problem. It's not actually a marketing problem. And then that's when we kind of bow out. And we're like, solve that and then come back. Like we've had a client, another client, amazing product, really cool idea, really big uptake in the VC world, had a lot of funding behind it, launched it, and it's too difficult for anyone who's not a developer to use, even though it's supposed to go to a B2C market. Great marketing, great uptake, really interesting product.
But if you can't use it, how do you sell it?
Exactly. So the feedback coming in is like, I don't know how to set this up. I'm on a Mac. Why can't I use it? Like, the cord doesn't work. Like things like that. So I'm like, you have a product issue. You don't have a marketing problem.
I think that alone is absolutely amazing because there's not too many marketing companies that I've talked to that diagnose the root problem outside of marketing, right? The fact that you're able to go through your process and solution and get the data and get actual facts to say, okay, here's the different components and your biggest problem, and being genuine and authentic to say, like, here's where your dollars and cents and time should be spent first.
Yeah.
And then once you fix that,
Then
let's
come
get back at it.
Yeah, come back to me, right? And it's like and one of the things, and like for us, that's really important at Paper Crane is that we always say we don't want our clients to like us, we want them to love us. And love isn't just nice fuzzy feelings. Love is being able to have hard conversations. Love is honesty and transparency, right?
Absolutely.
And so we like to live that. And if, like, I've had clients come to us and say, we've done market analysis, and then the sales leads say, well, what's my list of clients? And I've literally said, that's not my job. My job is to give you the market assessment and the sizing and the opportunities that are available in these different verticals. Your job as the sales lead is to go out and find those people and then sell to them.
Yeah.
I give you the collateral. I give you the data. I give you the tactical plan. Like, these are the publications you should be in. This is the PR we should be doing. These are the associations that we think you should be part of. This is the speaking engagements that you should do. And these are the topics that you should speak on. This is the case study that will probably resonate with this particular audience. And then we help write that and the words that you should use and that kind of thing. But I'm not going to build you a client list.
And without the strategy, how it can be effective even with the client list, right?
Yeah, it's two sides of the same coin, right? Marketing supports sales. And sales drives marketing, right? So, like, you need both of them in order to do that. But there's a misconception that it's both. That marketing will save your business. Marketing isn't a business plan, and it's not a sales strategy.
It's a component of a business plan.
Exactly, right? It's like, how are you going to go out and reach that audience, connect with that audience, and do it in an authentic way? That's part of your business plan, absolutely, and that's a way that you should be doing that. And then it's all in the execution too. Like, that's the other thing that sometimes organizations don't understand is I can hand you a business plan or a marketing plan, and they can say, I'm going to take it and I'm going to execute it because they don't want to pay the extra fee to execute or whatever it is. And that's totally fine if they have the resources. And then they get into it and they're like, oh my God, there's a lot.
Execution, yeah, half or more, right? In anything.
Oh yeah, I would say more for sure, more than half. Yeah. It's like, 70% execution. I can sit there and pontificate about marketing all I want. If I can't execute.
And of course, correct, I imagine, just like anything in life, right? You have your strategy, your plan, you go down to implement. And how often, maybe I'd ask as a question, how often do your clients start going down the plan and then need to course correct here and there, getting additional anecdotal feedback and new data?
Yeah. I would say almost every time. And at no point is a marketing plan perfect. There is an art to it. I would say about 10 to 15% of the plan probably needs to change. It's never a lot of the plan, but there's always at least one thing where they're like, that one really didn't work, right? And so I think that that's one of the things that people need to understand too, is that it's not a be-all, end-all. The goal of what you want to do shouldn't change. How you get there might have to a little bit. You might have to course correct, right? And it might be something completely out of your hands, like a regulatory change came down.
Change is the only constant in life, right?
Yeah.
That's why I talk about clients all the time. Like with planning, you can't set it and forget it. It needs to be updated, course correct, figure out what life, economics, politics, markets, they're all moving.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, if you're playing in a space that's highly regulated, a regulatory decision could completely change your marketing plan. Yeah. And you don't have any control over that, right? Say, like, you know, your largest client, what we call a tombstone client, the tombstone clients that kill your business, right? Your largest client decides they're going to bring all the services that you offer in-house. Well, now you can't afford the marketing, let alone like course correct, right? So, you know, maybe there is a tactic that you put into place that you've been running for a really long time that just stopped working for some reason. Your audience decided to go somewhere else. Or, you know, maybe you had a big scandal. Maybe somebody in your organization did something real bad. And I think about, like, in that example, I think about
But you need PR working with marketing to figure that out, right?
PR in that, like, in that sort of context, right? So, like, there's a lovely little story about marketing that I like, and see if I can get this right. Imagine there's a circus coming to town, and you put up a sign. That's advertising. If you put the sign on the back of an elephant and walk it into town, that's promotion. If the elephant walks through the mayor's flower bed and the local newspaper writes a story about it, that's publicity. If you get the mayor to laugh about it publicly, that's public relations. That's PR. If you tell your audience about the various booths at the circus, the fun they will have, and that they can bring their families, that's sales. And if you planned the whole thing, that's marketing. And if you ensured all the pieces looked and sounded like the same circus, that's branding. And
that's beautiful.
I love that analogy because it pulls in all the different pieces that are necessary to get people to come to your circus. Right?
And more simplistic examples so that everyone can understand. Like, okay, what is PR? What is branding? What is marketing? Because often those words are used sometimes interchangeably, just incorrectly, or coffee shops. Maybe not by brand specialists, but by the rest of the public. That we just don't know, right? When we think, even myself as a business owner, right? When you think of marketing, there are so many different areas, but it's hard. You don't know what you don't know. And it's hard to keep track of, okay, what are all the components and how they all fit together?
Yeah, and I think most of the time, people, when they think about marketing, are thinking about advertising. They're thinking about ads. They're thinking about like social media posts. They're thinking about posters. They're thinking about TV. They're thinking about advertising.
Websites.
Yeah, thinking about advertising. They're not thinking about marketing. Marketing's all of those things put together. And for us specifically, like, we're a brand strategy and marketing strategy. So we don't do PR, for instance. We don't do public relations. We have PR firms because that requires a whole other set of skills that it's press releasing, it's crisis management a lot of the time, crisis planning. You have to hold relationships with the media so they'll pick up your story. It's being able to write in a way that, media will pick it up, and promotion and that kind of thing. That's all PR. That's a totally different thing. That's not something that we do. We will recommend PR as part of a marketing strategy, but execution of PR is a different animal. And then there's a whole new world of advertising and public relations, all tied into social media and social media management, and being able to manage an audience and manage your social media accounts and trolls, and
that's a specialization job only in itself.
Oh yeah, there are whole
algorithms and all of that.
There are whole firms that just do that. There are agencies that just do social media management because it's modern day PR, really. And we don't do that either. We'll recommend a social media strategy, say, like, you need to be on these channels because that's where your audience is, because that's where we've interviewed and that's where they spend their time. And we think you need to pay some of that for some of that space, and we think you need to manage that space and that audience. But we don't manage the audience. Like, I won't post things for you and then talk to your audience about it. But there are agencies that do that. And we have partners that do that for that. Digital marketing is another one, right? Digital advertising. So SEO strategy, keywords, Google ads, all of that kind of stuff. And what's called the display network, and putting ads up and all of that kind of stuff. There are whole agencies that just do that. And that's another one that we give off from an execution perspective.
So many people in the village that need to work together to have a journey unstoppable.
Yeah, so we're a brand, like I said, a brand strategy and marketing strategy, visual identity, web design and development. So marketing strategy is like the research, the persona development, the plan, the tactical recommendations, and then execution on certain pieces of that. So there's creative execution on that. So like we'll design all the ads, we'll write all the content, we'll put up the website, we'll put together all the things and pieces that your sales team needs in order to go execute on that stuff. And then...
Do you have an example? I know you had a few examples you shared with me over the last couple of months, but can you share a story or example of a client that went through that journey, that had that problem, and then you had, the data and the research and the strategy implementation, and where'd they end up going?
Where are they now?
Yeah,
there is a new clinic in town, and they haven't... I guess I don't know. Can I say their name? I don't know if I can. Yeah. Probably. I'm not under NDA. So there's a new clinic in town, and they're a bone density clinic. It's called BioStrong, and there's only one clinic of its kind in Western Canada. The other one is in London, Ontario, and there's a smattering of them in the United States. So it's based on the principle of osteogenic loading. So if you...
What is that? Sorry.
Yeah. So I'll explain that. So osteogenic loading is basically just like your muscles, when you lift a certain amount of weight, it increases bone density naturally. So lifting weights, so putting weight against your musculoskeletal system produces bone as well as muscle. So it actually makes you a lot stronger in both ways. So osteogenic loading is basically loading your musculoskeletal system with enough weight that it triggers your body to build bone.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah. So it happens when you lift weights. People who lift a lot of weights and work out, you're doing osteogenic loading. In order for it to be incredibly effective, you need to lift 4 times your body weight. That's a lot of weight.
That's a lot of weight, especially after Christmas.
Absolutely. And for anybody with osteopenia or osteoporosis, that's horrendously dangerous. You do not want to do that, right? You don't want to go to the gym and leg press 1,000 pounds, however much you weigh, I don't know. But you don't want to do that. So what BioStrong does is they have this machine that you use, and it puts 4 times your body weight pressure on your musculoskeletal system through 6 little exercises that you can do, and it helps trigger your body's natural ability to build bone.
Interesting.
Brand new concept. Totally new to the Calgary market, almost completely new to Canada, almost completely new to the medical community, new to a lot of osteoporosis patients. And so their goal is to go and help folks with osteoporosis build bone naturally so they can get off medications. And so...
That's great vision.
Yeah, great vision. So we had the client that they bought the business off of an American company. So there was an American company that was selling an arm of this business into Canada. They had market research, they had client and persona development, they had tactical plans set out. They even researched the location the clinic should be in based on the income level of the postal codes in and around that area. They had a solid 5-year business plan. They knew exactly how many free sessions you needed to get in order to make the business plan work, and they had a tactical plan and marketing in place. So the client came to us, and he said, "I can't execute this plan because I'm not a marketing person." And I'm like, "Great." And I looked at all the research, and we looked at it all, and I'm like, "This looks really awesome. Let's try it." And so there were, so we did a certain pieces of the plan we executed on, and certain pieces of the plan we made recommendations on. So we're like, okay, we're going after a 55 plus audience. Television works for the 55 plus audience. It's a little more expensive, but we want to be on the news. I'm going to buy the news. So you can buy certain segments on the news, on the live Monday morning news segments. You can buy like sections of it. So we did that, and the plan included a robust social media execution as well. and a paid social media and online and all that kind of stuff. Social media absolutely flopped, died. I think in the first 6 months, we were like, absolutely not. We need to reallocate this budget. Television took off. Loved it. Everything in the news, we still do the news. We do it every other month. We'll do the news. It's called the Better Bones segment.
The Better Bones.
Yep, Better Bones with BioStrong. Catch us on CTV. But anyway, we did that. And then we had made a lot of assumptions about the audience. In the first year, we knew that the marketing budget was going to be a test. It's a brand new market, brand new product. We had to educate the market about the product. We had to educate them about what osteogenic loading was. And then we had to educate them about the solution. And then we started doing customer interviews, and we started doing, because they do bone scans as well. So we started getting results for the bone scans. And we were finding that people were getting anywhere from 74 to 210% increase in bone density.
Oh, wow.
Without medication. And our audience was somebody, we assumed our audience would be anybody over the age of 55 who was concerned about bone density, men and women included, and that was wrong. It's just women, mostly. We get some men, but very little, and they're usually from the medical community because they're testing it out for their own clients. We get mostly women. They're 68 plus, and they've been on osteoporosis medication for anywhere from 2 to 5 years.
Is that because the pain and frustration of taking medicine, they want to stop that?
They want to stop it. And every single client that we've talked to, when we ask, why did you choose BioStrong? They say, because what do I have to lose? Because the alternative is that I'm on medication that could give me cancer. And the medication for osteoporosis is harsh. It is a harsh medication. You can only take it for a certain number of years. And then regardless of how old you are, you have to stop after a certain amount of time. I think it's like a decade. So they have clients that are reaching that point where they can no longer take this medication anymore, or they're butting up against their last round. And so they're like, well, might as well try it, because like, what do I have to lose? It's 15 minutes a week, and I can do this. And they're getting these phenomenal results. So now what we've done with that, so the first year was a test, and we knew it was going to be a test. I'm like, this budget is really testing out different tactics and different areas where this audience might be and what's going to work. By the end of the first year, we had really concrete data of where the audience is coming from, what channels were working, and how many memberships we got out of every single channel. So we've got really concrete data. So that's what I mean about a new business versus a mature business, because a mature business will likely have that data. And then we can go build on that. Whereas a new business, we need to do like a year of testing.
You need to build up that data set.
Yeah, we need to build up the data set. So now we've got really clear ideas. We went into year 2, and then we're heading into year 3 now. But we went into year 2 with a really clear idea and doubled down on a lot of those tactics. And then saw the data shift and where it was coming up against, and we're able to narrow that tactical set down even further. Because as a new business, they also don't have they don't have a huge marketing budget, right? Like, we're not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars here that they can just throw at marketing. And television's expensive. So, and that's one of the best performing ones. So
that's many businesses in Canada too, right? They need to be very intentional with their marketing dollars.
Yeah, so you have to be very intentional, and you have to have data against that. So what we did with each one of the clients is we redid their intake forms so that we could know where they heard about us and how they heard about us. So, and the audience is very willing to give their information. Once they're in, they're like, oh yeah. So we had, I think it was an 86% response rate for where you heard about us. Like, was it radio? Was it TV? Was it a newsletter?
Just by asking the question.
Just by asking the question. Was it a referral? So many businesses don't do that. They don't ask, how'd you hear about us? Who told you? What did they say? Right? Like, so many businesses don't do that. And so just by doing that exercise alone in the first year, 86% of their audience responded to that, gave us really good numbers, and I can extrapolate, and they have a list of which client, where they heard about us, and whether or not they became a member. Did they just come for a free session and then leave? Or did they come for a free session and then buy a membership? So I know the percentages for each one of the tactics that we recommended. So because I know those percentages, I can then divide up the marketing budget based on those percentages. So then we're going into year 3, and they have a good data set. They have a great client list. Now we're conducting all of our client interviews. So we're going and we're conducting client interviews. We know who said no. We know who came in for a free session and didn't become a member. So we're interviewing members, non-members, and people who dropped off. And why? And now we're going to tailor the messaging even further.
So is each year kind of tackling different problems along this journey? Is that?
Yes and no. I think that like it's not, each one's not tackling a different tactical problem. Each year is refining the tactics to the ones that work.
Gotcha.
So
narrowing down and just
improving for each tactical thing. So the audience likes Google search is our number one, which is weird. It was an assumption I made about 68 plus folks that they weren't going to be on the internet a lot. Turns out that's wrong. They're on the internet a lot.
Yeah, we all have supercomputers in our pockets now, right?
Right? And it's tablet and desktop it's coming from, not mobile.
Oh,
interesting.
So maybe the supercomputer in our pocket doesn't matter for that.
The tablet, though. Love the tablet. They love tablets. So that's the vast majority of the audience comes from there. Second in line is referrals. So friends are telling them about it. That's usually one of the bigger ones.
Yeah, referrals in many businesses that are successful.
Yeah, so we're developing a referral program for them now because we know there's incentive. Okay, tell your friends. Like, let's get going with the referral program.
Build up on it.
So now we're developing a whole referral program. Now we can market that. Now we can talk about it. Third in line is TV. So we know we need to double down on TV. Radio is absolutely nothing. Trade shows, nope. And then the fourth in line is the medical community. So it's being referred to by osteopaths, not medical doctors. So we've got to go after the medical doctor side of it, and the osteopaths are something that we're going to double down on as well. So we knew that at the beginning, we thought, well, Facebook's going to be great. Anyone over the age of 35 is on Facebook. Nope. Didn't work at all. So we thought radio, because they're in their cars. They're going to be like listening to the radio, all that stuff. And the audience research you get out of radio stations supported that. Nope. So the point of a good marketing and tactical plan is being able to refine that down over the course of many years or many months, depending on, how quickly your business makes money. Because it's being able to refine it down to the point where you're like, I know who my audience is. And then branding is about understanding their problems and the problem they're trying to solve, and then giving them the messaging that solves that problem. And then bringing them to the door. So that's what marketing does, is it brings it to the door, and then the business has to open the doors and deliver on that promise. So we're going to give you a promise, and then they have to deliver it.
Absolutely. There's always got to be proof in the pudding.
Absolutely. So that's going to then do better referrals and all those other kinds of things. And then it just feeds itself after a while. There's a feedback loop that happens. But the branding is like talking to those different audiences, seeing what tactics work, seeing what their feedback is, and then tailoring the messaging and the visual identity to make sure that it resonates with them. So this community is like, they read the research before they come to the clinic. Every one of them does. So we're like, case studies, obviously. Then we need to do that. We need to prove it. We need numbers. We need results. We need bone scans. Yeah. So then we can go back to the business and say, publish all your bone scans. Let's pick somebody and do a full case study. Let's follow them for a year, and that kind of thing. So that's how that comes about, where like we get that stuff and we get that data and we get that persona, and then we come back to the business and say, great, they're reading the data. We need to do a case study.
That's where it come back almost full circle from the start of this conversation, where it's like half art, half science, right? There really is that yin and yang and
absolutely
close tie-in.
Yeah, for sure. And then we need support on their side as well. Like that's, like we're like, we need a case study. And then they're like, great, let's build a case study. But then we got to work with them on building that case study. Or we like pick
execution, like you said before, right?
So you pick a person and, we're going to follow you for 6 months. And we're going to bone scan you at day 1, and we're going to bone scan you again at 6 months, and we're going to get a video testimonial, and we're going to do these things.
Does this actually work? What does this do?
Yeah, right? And, we're going to give you the gift card to a grocery store or something. but like it's based on all that data and based on what people say and based on how they react and how many people are actually buying the thing that you're buying, then you can go in and say, make recommendations. So we know that the audience is older. We're going to have everything is going to be high contrast. All the fonts have to be bigger. All of the website has to be high contrast. So we can, because there's vision problems in that audience, right? So
know what's important for the audience.
and that's knowing what's important to the audience. I don't care if you don't like huge font on your stuff. Your audience can't read it. So that's again, like you're like, oh, I want it to look like Apple and be really airy and little font and it's all white. And be like, well, ask a 78-year-old lady to read that then. Good luck. Because and that's what I mean about understanding your audience, exactly like what you said. You do what's best for the audience so that you can be proud of it and they will still come back and they will feel like you understand them and you're there to help solve their problem.
It's about them, not about you.
Exactly.